Over the past year, I've played a ton of Pokemon, and recently Nintendo announced Fire Red and Leaf Green were coming to the Switch. So I felt like I have to play those games, being as I've never played them before. And I decided if I'm going to do this, why not make it a Shiny Dream Team quest, considering my new love for shiny hunting. And for those who don't know, here's an explanation of a Shiny Dream Team quest. Did you get all that? But before we get into the video, don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy shiny hunting or Pokemon challenge videos. These videos take a long time to make, and it just shows me that you are enjoying the content. With that being said, let's get started. Now, first we're going to get into an explanation of the team. Quick disclaimer though, I have never played these games before, so this team is based solely on the smallest amount of research that I could do without spoiling the entire game for myself. Here's the team. We're going to grab Charizard, Nidoking, Jolteon, Alakazam, Snorlax, and Lapras. Most of these are static encounters, so that should make this a little bit easier, right? And now that we've got the team down, it's time to finally play the game. So we start off with an introduction from Professor Oak, and then on to the first hunt of this challenge, a trainer ID. Now, did I need to do this? No. Did I do it anyways? Yes. So after a bunch of resetting and about 2 days later, I finally got a trainer ID that I thought was good enough. The ID I got is 44466. So I'm very happy about that. That's a great set of numbers. So now I can actually play the game and reset for I want Charmander. I'm gonna see what happens there. I can finally play though. So after that was over, we say goodbye to Mom, we head straight for the tall grass and get stopped by Professor Oak because apparently he's the only adult watching out for the kids in this town. And then after that, he took us back to the lab where it was on to the second hunt of this journey, our first shiny hunt. Now, being as this is one of my first real shiny hunts, I wasn't doing this with the most optimized strategy in mind, so it took a lot longer than it should have, I think, based on the amount of resets that I did. But after about 8 hours and a day and a half, I had my first shiny. I forgot to record, but shiny Modest Nature Charmander. Oh my god, I wasn't recording because I've been spamming A and B over and over again this whole time, but 286. I just upped the count on accident. 286. It's a little bit over like 8 hours. Shiny Charmander. Awesome. Okay. Yeah, let's check out our shiny Charmander in person. And his Squirtle has nothing on my yellow Charmander. With the first member of my team secured, it was finally time to begin my journey to Pewter City. Now, knowing Brock's rock-type Pokemon could be a major obstacle for Charmander, I first headed over to Route 22 and caught a Mankey to give myself an answer for the first gym. But it was also for another reason. So one thing I didn't mention at the start of this video is I wanted to Eevee train each of my shiny Pokemon as I progressed through the game. So I spent some time battling wild Pokemon and starting the training process for my shiny Charmander. And I also used this opportunity to train up my Mankey so it would be high enough level to take a hit from Brock's strongest Pokemon, his Onix. Now Brock's team consists of Geodude and Onix, and if a Rock Tomb from the Onix one-shots my Mankey, I'll have to start the gym battle all over because I can't use my Charmander for this fight. So after evolving my Charmander to Charmeleon, making my way through Viridian Forest, and arriving in Pewter City, the moment had finally come. So with my team prepared and Mankey ready to put in some work, it was time to challenge Brock and earn the Boulder badge. And after taking out his Geodude, a low kick on Mankey finished Onix off in one hit. And with Brock out of the way, it was finally time to start hunting the second member of the Shiny Dream Team, Nidoran Male. I headed over to Route 3, finally getting the running shoes. I started the search. Since Nidoran would eventually become Nidoking, one of the strongest Pokemon on the final team, This was a hunt I was really looking forward to. At first, the encounters flew by, but as the hunt went on, every Pokemon and every Nidoran started to look exactly the same. Still, that's just how shiny hunting goes. You keep going, trust the process, and hope the next encounter is the one. Then, it finally happened. And it went just as expected. I caught it, but just as I was about to nickname it, I reset my game. Now, you may be wondering how I could do this, especially if you know the button combination needed to reset the game. Well, the answer is simple. When I was entering the nickname, I pressed B to backspace, but I did it like this, causing my whole thumb to press all the buttons and losing my shiny Nidoran. But luckily, and I mean luckily, it only took a few more encounters to get it back. And honestly, I'm surprised this happened, because if it didn't, I don't know if I would still be doing this hunt today. Now, with our future Nidoking now on the team, it was time to continue the adventure and start working toward the next shiny. So, editing hollow here. You may realize in the clip that I have my shiny Nidoran show up that I have a Starmie. So I have that because I traded it from a friend because I didn't feel like I was getting enough encounters, and its ability, Illuminate, lets me get more encounters more frequently. But after I got the shiny Nidoran, I realized I wouldn't really need it anymore because the rest of the encounters were just static encounters. So I traded it back, and now we're back to a pure team. And if you think that's cheating, I really don't care, because I was wanting to speed this up. So back to the video. Now, not much happened in Mount Moon besides me picking up the Helix fossil, grabbing a Moonstone, and making my way through the Team Rocket runs. So after that, I left the cave, I leveled up my Nidoran a little more, evolved it into Nidorino, and then I used the Moonstone to evolve it into Nidoking. And before long, I leveled up a few more members of my team while also doing a little bit of Eevee training. I finally entered Cerulean City. Of course, the game wasn't about to let me relax, because the moment I headed north, my rival showed up for another battle. This fight was definitely a step up from our first encounter, now that he had a newly evolved Pidgeotto and a larger team than before. Luckily, I had leveled up my Pokemon, so it was pretty easy to take him down. And after taking him down, I made my way across Nugget Bridge and fought all the trainers there. I also spent a few hours doing the Nugget Bridge exploit because I wanted to make farming on the game corner a little bit easier later on. I also evolved my Charmeleon into Charizard, and with him being fully Eevee trained, I think he's the strongest member on my team. After that, I fought all the trainers on Route 25. At the end of the route, I met Bill, helped him out with his little Pokemon transformation problem, and picked up the SS ticket, which we'll need later on. With that done, there was only one major challenge left before moving on: Misty. As the second gym leader, Misty uses a Staryu and a Starmie, and her Starmie can be surprisingly dangerous this early in the game. Thankfully, our team is strong enough to handle it. So the battle went smoothly, and I was able to earn the Cascade badge. 2 badges down, 2 members of the Shiny Dream Team secured, and I feel pretty good about it so far. And after beating Misty, I walked into a house that looked like a Rhyhorn ran through it, and I found the Team Rocket Grunt responsible. So after beating them, I started the journey to the next gym. But when I got to the gate post, I found that the guard wasn't letting anyone past, so I had to take the underground tunnel that led me to Vermilion City. After healing my team up and acquiring a fishing rod, I boarded the SS Anne, where I ran into plenty of trainers looking for a battle, including my rival Green. After showing him once again that he was no match for me, I got to go meet the captain, who was apparently seasick, which is weird when you think about what his job is, because would you really want to captain a ship if you got seasick? So, after receiving the cut HM from the captain, I left the SS Anne, which also left. I really hope there wasn't anything that I needed on there. But regardless, with cut, I can now access the next gym, which has one of the worst puzzles I've ever had to complete in a Pokemon game. I had to actually look up how to complete it. And even then I was getting fed up with it, so while I figure out this puzzle, let's talk about Lieutenant Surge and his team. Lieutenant Surge has Voltorb, Pikachu, and Raichu, with Raichu being the biggest problem for me, literally because after using Double Team, my Nidoking's attacks would only net miss after miss after miss. But eventually, we took it down and got ourselves the Thunder Badge. My next stop was Vermilion's Pokemon Fan Club, where I picked up the bike voucher and I immediately turned it in. Then I went to the rock tunnel, which was shockingly super dark, so I taught my Clefairy Flash. And after running around through the tunnel, I found the move tutor to teach Billy Rock Slide. After all that, I left the cave, and before long I was in Lavender Town, where I found out a man named Mr. Fuji was missing. I also learned that a Cubone's mother was killed by Team Rocket. Wow, this game is almost as dark as the manga, which if you haven't read, spoiler warning. But this is a real panel from a real Pokemon manga where Green's Charmeleon literally cuts an Arbok in half. But with that traumatic memory out of the way, I rename my Charizard to Jason and leave Lavender Town. But not before I contemplate all the choices that led to me doing this challenge. After my existential crisis, I made my way to Celadon City and climbed up so many stairs to the roof of this building where I could steal, hunt for the third member of my team. So I started the hunt. And then I realized that I didn't leave a party slot open, so I had to make my way back down the many flight of stairs and walk all the way back to the Pokemon Center. But I made room for Eevee, and now I was finally ready to hunt again. And after many hours of hunting, this happened. So we're gonna give it till 1750 because I have to go to bed and I've been doing this for way too long. No way that's a shiny. That's insane. No way I say we hit 1750 and I'm gonna stop and then we get it at 1749. That's crazy. Okay. So there's my shiny Jolteon. Well, my shiny Eevee that I'm gonna make into my Jolteon. That's another member of the team down. Sick. Okay. With one more hunt under my belt, I felt pretty good and immediately went to the Celadon department store to buy the Thunderstone to immediately get my Jolteon and a ton of items I'd need to speed up the Eevee training process. After my shopping spree, I found myself at the game corner where I fought a Rocket Grunt who, after being beat, alluded to this being a hideout of some sort. But I also realized I needed a coin case before I could do anything here. So I found a sad drunk who just gave me his. With the coin case in my pocket, I was ready for my next shiny hunt, Abra. Shiny Abra is considered one of the easiest hunts in this game, simply for the fact that you can see so many at once since you just purchase them as prizes from the game corner. So with all the coins I could afford, I started buying as many Abras as the game would allow. And I know I've gotten lucky this run, but nothing prepared me for what was going to happen here. Finding nothing in my first batch, I reset and repeated the process, and this time I found what I was searching for. Regular. Yep. Wait a minute. Oh, I got a shiny Abra. Yeah, it's a shiny Abra. Yeah, I'm so happy about it. It's insane. Okay, so it only took me two resets. This 2 resets must be because it took me so long to find my shiny Eevee. Let's see what else we got though, just to I have all these Abras, so you might as well check again. I doubt I'll find another shiny Abra, but you know, you always have to check to be sure. Otherwise, they're just gonna be sitting here. Another one? Oh my god. What are the odds of that? That's right. Hold on. Hold on. To make sure I'm not crazy here. Where's the other one? It's like down here somewhere. Man, I don't know where it is. No, put it down. Jesus Christ. Where's the other one? Where's the other one? Come on. I'm not okay. I'm not crazy. Let me see. 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 Okay, summary. Mild nature Abra. Timid nature Abra. They've got different stats as well. They both have inner focus though. That's insane. I can't believe that. I can't believe that. Now, let me break down the odds of this happening. In Pokemon Fire Red, every Abra you buy from the game corner has a standard shiny odds of 1 in 8192. That means each individual Abra has about a 0.012% chance of being shiny. In the first batch, I bought 42 Abras and got nothing. And then I bought 42 Abras in this batch and somehow ended up with 2 shinies. To figure out how rare that is, we use a probability formula that calculates the chance of getting exactly 2 successes, in this case 2 shiny Abras, out of 42 attempts. When you plug in the numbers, the odds come out to roughly 1 in 78,000. Let that sink in for a second. Not 1 shiny, 2 shiny Abras from the same batch of 42 purchases. This is massively insane luck, and considering I had already gone through a previous batch without seeing 2 shinies, this was one of those moments that reminds you why shiny hunting is so addictive. It also had me wondering if I'd used up all my luck before I even got to hunting the next team member. Now, we have 4 of the 6 team members. After giving my new team members personal nicknames, it was back to Eevee training. So, I went back to the store to sell off the remaining nuggets and buy as many Eevee items as I could. But unfortunately, I lost the footage which included my evolution of Abra to Kadabra. So after our training montage, all of my Pokemon were ready to take on Erika. Erika's team consists of Victreebel, Tangela, and Vileplume. And I one-shot them all. Yeah, I just flamethrower. Which got me another badge, the Rainbow Badge. That gives us 4 out of 8 badges, 4 out of 6 team members, and a lot more to go. So my thought process on this next hunt was I wanted to go to the Pokemon Tower as quickly as possible. Not because I didn't care about the story or I didn't want to know what was going on, because I did, but because I knew the next hunt was going to be very time consuming. But we'll come back to that later. And with that out of the way, I can finally get my Kadabra to an Alakazam, which I did by doing a trade with myself on the leaf green version of the game that I had. But now I'm finally ready to take on Pokemon Tower. Or not actually. While I was on my way to Lavender Town to get back to the Pokemon Tower, I went through the guard post and realized I had picked up a drink that I could give to the guard. I don't know when I picked this up, but I did. And then he let me through and told me all the other guards would know as well. And when I finally got into Saffron City, I walked around trying to figure out where to go or what to do, and I couldn't do anything. Turns out I have to go back to the game corner to fight Team Rocket to get the Silph Scope, because when I went to Pokemon Tower, I couldn't see any of the Pokemon because they were ghosts, and you can only see ghosts with the Silph Scope. We go to the Rocket Tower, suffer through this amazingly long puzzle, which now that I think about it was pretty easy. I would rather have just walked up, battled the Rocket Grunt, and find the elevator key so I could just take the elevator to Giovanni. But it's Pokemon. Now that I've made it through the maze that is this building, it's finally time to battle Giovanni, who at this point in the game has 3 Pokemon, Onix, Rhyhorn, and Kangaskhan. As far as I remember, this fight wasn't particularly hard. My Pokemon were pretty strong. It played out alright. We beat Giovanni and acquired the Silph Scope. With the Silph Scope in hand, I was finally able to go back to Pokemon Tower, where I was immediately met with a rival once again. And obviously he wanted the battle, so I battled him and almost single-handedly took all his team members out using Trini and her Thunderbolt. Made my way up the tower and was finally confronted with the spirit that was haunting the tower, which just happened to be Cubone's mother. Shocker. And after a quick battle, the restless spirit finally departs to the afterlife. We discovered that a bunch of Team Rocket Grunts have Mr. Fuji. But after defeating them, we learned Mr. Fuji came on his own because he heard of the spirit that was haunting the tower. But for coming all that way just to find him, we are awarded with the Pokeflute, which means we can finally hunt Snorlax. But it also means I can come back to the point I was trying to make earlier. The hardest part about hunting Snorlax is it's not just an instant static encounter. Every time you interact with Snorlax, you have to blow the Pokeflute and it has to play the tune. So you can see why this becomes very time consuming. Pair that with the reset and the recap, and you're in for a long ride. Please, for the love of God. I can't be loud, my son's asleep. Finally! Oh my God. Oh, now I just need to catch it. Oh, I need to catch it. I need to catch it. I don't want to low kick it. With low kicking, it kill it. I'm going to try a low kick. Oh, I hope it doesn't knock it out. Oh, okay. Okay. No, Snorlax, you bastard. Come on, man. Are you kidding me? I didn't anticipate any of this. Guys, let me just say, this dude did not want to get in the ball. I did low kick, it would rest, it would heal. I'd low kick again, it would rest, it would heal again. I'd throw a ball, it would break out. It was just a mess. But eventually, just catch it, just catch it, just catch it. It's mine. That was not fun. But hey, I have the Snorlax now. I'm just gonna sit here for a second and just contemplate that whole thing. It's 12 a.m. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go to bed. With Snorlax now on the team, I nicknamed him Tommy and went straight to the best part about this whole playthrough. Eevee training! Yay! So after that long, grueling process, I proceeded to get lost along the entire map because I had no idea where I was supposed to go. And when I finally realized that I was supposed to take Route 13, 14, and 15 all the way to Fuchsia City, I got distracted by the Safari Zone. And couldn't figure out how to get into the gym. Because apparently I'm an idiot. So instead of going to the gym, I went all the way back to Saffron City, where I found out I could finally enter the Silph building. While in the Silph building, I fought a bunch of the Rocket Runts, I picked up this card key, and met my rival once again. But at this point, you would think he'd just be tired of losing. And using the power of friendship and a couple of Shadow Balls, we easily defeated Green once again. And with that out of the way, we can finally start the hunt for our final team member, Lapras. So with nothing but hopes and dreams, I started the hunt. And I wouldn't say this hunt was hard. I wouldn't say it was more difficult than any of the others because it's the same process we've done this entire time. But I did have a problem where I was getting burnt out. Going days and days doing this over and over again wasn't something I was used to before I started this challenge. So I stopped for about a week and then I came back to it. There were days where I'd pick it up and do it for a couple of hours, but then I'd put it back down because it was just becoming too much. When I started this, I don't think I fully realized what I was getting myself into. I knew it was going to be time consuming, and I knew it was going to take a lot of effort and a lot of work to keep the drive up. But I didn't know that at the end of my challenge, at the very end of the road, that's when I would lose the drive. But at this point, I felt like I needed to finish it. So thinking about that, I stuck it through, and eventually this happened. Oh my god, shiny Lapras. Oh, I got it. Oh my god. That's a... Oh god, I'm so happy about this. Holy shit. I can't believe I ever stopped. This was worth it. This was totally worth it. This is all I needed. Okay, yeah, we're good. We're done. We did it. Oh, I don't have words right now. This is it. We have them all. We've got all 6. God, I'm so happy. With all 6 team members finally secured, the only thing I have to do now is to become the champion. So, let's get started. I made my way through the teleporter, and it was time once again to fight Giovanni. And this wouldn't even be the last time I fought him. Sick. Giovanni's once again changed up his team, having Nidorino, Rhyhorn, Nidoqueen, Kangaskhan, and Nidoking. But once again, I wiped the floor with him and saved the president, who gives me a gift. Oh, we got the Master Ball. Let's go. Now I just have to figure out how the hell I get out of here. And sparing no time at all, it was time to fight Sabrina, whose gym challenge I solved strictly by only using the teleportation pad that was on the side that I didn't have to cross the sight line of the trainers, because I didn't want to fight any of them. And it worked. I made it to Sabrina. Sabrina's team consists of Kadabra, Mr. Mime, Venomoth, and Alakazam. And I just spent the whole battle having my Snorlax press Shadow Ball. And that nets us the Marsh badge. With Sabrina out of the way, I make my way back to Fuchsia City to fight Koga. His team consists of Coughing, Muck, and Wheezing. Having 2 of the same Pokemon is definitely a choice. So once we make it into Koga's gym, it's finally time to fight him. I just do the usual technique of having Tommy use Return since it does the most damage. The only one I had problems with was the Wheezing, which he healed with a Hyper Potion twice. He used another Hyper Potion? He can't use a Hyper Potion, only I can use Hyper Potions. But eventually, we took him down and earned ourselves the Soul Badge. But after that, we took a little ride on Lapras, avoiding as many trainers as possible, simply because I didn't feel like battling anyone at this point. And eventually we made it to Cinnabar Island, but upon walking up to Blaine's gym, I realized it was locked, so I decided to explore this little Poke Mansion, hoping that maybe completing this would unlock the gym for me. After flipping a couple switches and reading books talking about them naming a new Pokemon Mew and the birth of Mewtwo, we also find another book that says Mewtwo was too strong. And a secret key. With the secret key acquired, I leave the Poke Mansion. When we enter Blaine's gym, we discover that it works like a game show. You complete a question. If you get the question right, the door opens and you go to the next room. If you get the question wrong, you have to battle the trainer. So, while I do that, let's talk about Blaine's team. Blaine's team consists of Growlithe, Ponyta, Rapidash, and Arcanine. A pretty straightforward team. Well, I mean, it would be if I remembered to level up my Lapras at all, which I didn't. So, with Lapras on the bench for right now, I decided to go all in with Tommy and Return. You know, for a move I just learned how to use this playthrough, I think I'm relying on it more than I should be. And with the exception of his Arcanine, it one-hit KOs his entire team. And that earns us the Volcano badge. Once we're outside the gym, we're met with Bill. He tells us he's meeting a friend on the Sevi Islands and asks us if we want to come along. course, we agree, and we're off to one island, where we meet Zelio, who tells us and Bill he's been having trouble linking his PC system to Bill's PC system. So while they do that, we go on a little side quest, taking a meteor to a man on 2 Island, and we find out he's lost his daughter, which leads us to 3 Island, where we take on a gang of bikers, win, get information on where his daughter would be, and end up stumbling upon her in the very forest. So, with his daughter returned, and us acquiring a new moonstone, we make our way back to Bill, and he tells us his work here is all done, and takes us back to Cinnabar Isle. And with that out of the way, we finally make our way back to Viridian City. Viridian City's gym leader is, you guessed it, Giovanni. And as our final gym battle, Giovanni's team consists of Rhyhorn, Dugtrio, Nidoqueen, Nidoking, and Rhyhorn again. And since I felt like I'd been relying on Tommy and his return way too much, I decided to rely on Jason and his flamethrower, which pretty much burns his team to the ground. So with Giovanni defeated and us earning the Earth Badge, it was finally time to take on the Elite Four. The whole thing this journey had been building up to. But before I could do that, I had to Eevee train my Lapras, which cut a bit into me wanting to finish this as quickly as possible, but you know, what are you gonna do? But with that out of the way, we could finally head to the Elite Four. Oh, come on, man. I don't want to fight you again. So after another rival battle, which was only slightly harder than the other times I had battled him, I was able to enter into Victory Road. So after passing through all the gates and getting lost in a cave for a bit, the time had finally come. I could battle the first of the Elite Four. The first Elite Four member I battle is Lorelei. Lorelei has all ice Pokemon. The battle starts out with Lorelei sending out Dugong. I send out the first Pokemon in my party, which is Jason. Jason is obviously faster, so I go ahead and try to hit a flamethrower, which I get wasn't the smartest move, but I just wanted to see how much it would do. Unfortunately, it doesn't do that much damage, and a Surf does a ton of damage to Jason. So I go ahead and switch out Jason for Trini, who has a better matchup in this because she has electric moves. So I go ahead and have Trini do Thunderbolt, which knocks out the Dugong in one hit. Trini also levels up. I go ahead and decide to replace Double Kick with Thunder so she can have a stronger move. Lorelei's next Pokemon is Cloyster. I go ahead and choose Thunder again for Trini, but unfortunately the Cloyster protects. So I do it again, and it protects again. So I go ahead and have Trini do it again. This time it actually connects and knocks out the Cloyster in one hit. Next out is Slowbro. Slowbro hits a Yawn, which means my Trini is gonna fall asleep next turn. So I go ahead and click Thunder one more time, and that knocks out the Slowbro. The next Pokemon she sends out is Lapras. I go ahead and use a full heal to remove the sleep from Trini, and it uses a Confuse Ray, which isn't good for me. So I go ahead and heal up, because I don't know what the next move is gonna be, and the move is Surf, which actually hits me for critical damage. So I'm glad I did heal, otherwise I'd be reviving Trini right now. I go ahead and heal up once again, and it uses Ice Beam, which is better because it doesn't do that much damage. So I go ahead and hit a Thunder. Trini is confused. Trini hits the attack, but the attack itself misses. So Trini gets hit with another Ice Beam, and I just go ahead and try Thunderbolt, which this time it hits, but it unfortunately doesn't one-hit KO. So Lapras uses Body Slam, and Trini is out. So I decide my next option is to use my Lapras. Unfortunately, it activated its Citrus Berry, and I know my attacks aren't going to do that much, so I just go ahead and decide to Perish Song, which I actually decided to do here because I thought this was her last Pokemon. But after 3 turns of Perish Song, she actually switches out her Lapras for her Jinx, which since I forgot to switch out my Lapras, it faints to Perish Song. I go ahead and pull out my Charizard since I know Jinx is weak to my flamethrower. So this turn, I decide to switch out to Trini again, who I revived. And the first thing Trini gets hit with is another Confuse Ray. So with Trini confused, I decided to just revive my Lapras with a max revive and throw Lapras out again to just hit another Perish Song, because this Lapras has been the hardest Pokemon of hers that I've faced. So after 3 turns of Perish Song, I go ahead and switch out my Lapras for Tommy so it doesn't faint, and her Lapras finally falls to the Perish Song. And that's Elite Four Lorelei defeated. So after healing my Pokemon, the next Elite Four member we face is Bruno. For this battle, Bruno sends out Onix. Once again, I send out Jason, who I know from the beginning of this playthrough has a terrible matchup into Onix. So I decided to switch him out for Tommy. Tommy takes a Rock Tomb that also drops his speed, which isn't a problem for Tommy since he's relatively slow anyways. So I go ahead and have Tommy go for Shadow Ball, and Onix goes for Earthquake, which neither of them do much damage to the other. So Onix goes for another Earthquake. This time I have Tommy go for Brick Break, which actually does a decent chunk of damage. So as Onix goes for another Earthquake, I just have Tommy go for another Brick Break just to take out the Onix as quickly as possible. Bruno sends out Hitmonchan, and I have Tommy use Return, which does a good chunk of damage to Hitmonchan. Hitmonchan uses Counter, which unfortunately knocks out Tommy. And since Return relies on Friendship, I'm also pretty sure that's the last time I'll use Return since Tommy just fainted. But regardless, I go ahead and send out Billy, and I have Billy use Rock Slide. Bruno then heals his Hitmonchan, which makes this even harder. And the worst part is Billy's Rock Slide misses. So I go ahead and pivot into Strength, which doesn't do much damage. But Hitmonchan uses Counter again, which does a ton of damage. So I go ahead and heal up Billy. Billy gets hit with a Rock Tomb, and I decide I'm going to pivot out into Jason again. So I go ahead and have Jason use Fly, because I think it'd be easier if Hitmonchan's moves had the ability to miss at least one turn. Fly does enough damage and knocks out Hitmonchan. Bruno then sends out his Machamp. I do the same thing. I have Jason Fly. Machamp uses Rock Tomb and misses. Machamp is significantly stronger though, as the Fly does not knock it out in one hit. Instead of attacking, it opts for Bulk Up to raise its attack and its defense. Not only that, it also uses its Citrus Berry to heal itself. So I go ahead and do Fly again, hoping this time it'll knock it out. It doesn't, and Machamp go ahead and uses Rock Tomb on Jason, which knocks him out. So with two of my Pokemon down, I pivot out into Trent. And my only hope with Trent is that Psychic will knock Machamp out, which it does. So Bruno goes ahead and puts out Hitmonlee. So I go ahead and use Thief, thinking that if it has an item I can go ahead and steal it. It unfortunately doesn't, and takes a ton of damage, almost knocking out Trent with a Mega Kick. So after healing Trent and getting hit with a Brick Break, I decided to try and use Psychic to see how much damage that'll do, and it luckily knocks out the Hitmonlee. And he sends out Onix again. So I decide to just hit Recover with Trent, and Trent takes an Earthquake before hitting a Psychic that knocks out the Onix. And I don't know how, but we beat Elite Four Bruno. After healing up my team, it was time to take on the third Elite Four member, Agatha. Agatha starts the battle by sending out Gengar. I send out Jason, who I immediately switch out for Trent. Gengar goes ahead and puts the Toxid on Trent, poisoning him, but for the most part I think that's okay. So with Trent poisoned, I go ahead and have Trent use Psychic, which knocks out the Gengar in one hit. Agatha then sends out her Golbat, which I have Trent hit another Psychic, and that knocks out Golbat. Agatha then sends out Arbok, which its Intimidate ability cuts Trent's attack, which is fine because Trent is all based around special attack. So I go ahead and have Trent hit another Psychic, which knocks out the Arbok, and he grows to level 54. Agatha then sends out her second Gengar, and with the poison slowly eating away at Trent, I just go ahead and have him hit another Psychic, and that knocks out the Gengar. For Agatha's last Pokemon, she sends out Haunter, and you already know how this is going to go. Trent once again tanks the poison damage from Toxic that happened at the beginning of this fight, and knocks out the Haunter with one Psychic, beating Elite Four Agatha and making her probably the easiest Elite Four member we've had to face so far. After once again healing my team, I made my way into the next room, the room of the top trainer of the Elite Four, Lance. Lance starts the battle by sending out his Gyarados. I send out Jason. I go ahead and use Fly, hoping that that will net me a turn against Gyarados. Gyarados goes ahead and uses Dragon Range, which misses because I'm flying. Fly does barely anything, so I go ahead and do it again just to see how many times I can do this before Jason gets knocked out. Gyarados uses Dragon Rage, which knocks Jason down to almost half health, so I go ahead and pivot out Jason for Lapras. Gyarados uses Hyper Beam, which does so much damage to my Lapras. I go ahead and hit Ice Beam since I know it has to charge this turn. Ice Beam chunks a ton of damage from it, but Lapras is slower, so I go ahead and decide to heal Lapras. Gyarados once again uses Hyper Beam, which once again does a huge chunk of damage, and I have Lapras hit Ice Beam one more time for the knockout on Gyarados. For his next Pokemon, Lance sends out Aerodactyl, which personally from reviewing this video over, I think is the toughest Pokemon on his team. It uses Ancient Power, which chunks a ton of damage from Lapras, and I use Ice Beam, which does the same to his Aerodactyl. So I go ahead and think it's time to switch out to Tommy, and as I predicted, Lance uses a full restore to fully heal his Aerodactyl. Aerodactyl uses Ancient Power, and this time when it uses its Ancient Power, it raises all its stats. So I go ahead and have Tommy hit Return, which doesn't do much damage to the Aerodactyl. So I decide to pivot out into Billy, hoping Billy can do something. Aerodactyl this time uses Wing Attack, which does a good chunk of damage to Billy, but Aerodactyl also gets hit with the Poison Point from Billy's ability. And Aerodactyl uses another Hyper Beam, which knocks out Billy. So I pivot out into Tommy again and decide to use this turn to heal up Billy, since Aerodactyl has to recharge from the Hyper Beam. So I go ahead and use Shadow Ball, which does a small bit of damage. And after getting hit with another Ancient Power and Aerodactyl getting hit with another Shadow Ball, Aerodactyl is finally down. And with Aerodactyl down, Lance sends out Dragonite. I go ahead and use this first turn to heal up Tommy because I know Dragonite is going to just use Hyper Beam, which it does, and does a ton of damage to Tommy. So this next turn, I go ahead and heal up. So I go ahead and heal Lapras with a Max Potion since I know Dragonite has to recharge this turn anyways. And on the next turn, I heal up Snorlax and Dragonite opts for Wing Attack. After tanking the damage from Wing Attack, I go ahead and use this next turn to use another Max Potion on Billy, just trying to heal up my Pokemon. And Dragonite opts to use Safeguard. Finally deciding I want to try to do as much damage to this Dragonite as possible, I have Tommy go ahead and hit Brick Break, and Dragonite hits for another Wing Attack. Brick Break not doing much damage. I feel like I have to try and hit Return just to see what it will do, but Tommy gets hit with a Hyper Beam and gets knocked out. So using this free switch out, I go ahead and switch out Lapras and have Lapras hit Ice Beam, which is perfect since Dragonite has to recharge, so I get to hit the Ice Beam for free, knocking it out in one hit. Lance goes ahead and sends out Dragonair. I hit another Ice Beam, which knocks out Dragonair before it even has a chance to attack. Lance sends his last Pokemon, another Dragonair, which I once again Ice Beam and knock out. And with that, we've beaten Elite Four Lance and beaten all of the Elite Four. But this is where I find out I have one more person to battle. The new Pokemon League champion, my rival, Green. Apparently he beat the Elite Four before I could arrive, so now he is the last person I have to battle. So I heal up my team one more time and head in to face my rival for the final time. For the start of this battle, as usual, Green sends out his Pidgeot, I send out Jason. I go ahead and have Jason use Flamethrower, which does a huge chunk to Pidgeot, but not enough to knock it out. Pidgeot goes ahead and opts for Sand Attack, lowering Jason's accuracy. I go ahead and have Jason hit Fly, which leaves the Pidgeot with about 1 HP. It wasn't enough to knock it out. Green goes ahead and opts to use a full restore, bringing his Pidgeot back to full health, and I have Jason hit Flamethrower again, which does a good chunk of damage, but not enough. So for the next turn, I have Jason use Flamethrower again. This time it misses. Pidgeot uses Aerial Ace, which does a ton of damage. I go ahead and hit Flamethrower again. It misses again. Pidgeot uses Aerial Ace again, does a ton of damage to Jason. I use Flamethrower one more time. It misses again, and Jason is knocked out by Pidgeot's Aerial Ace. With Jason fainted, I go ahead and send out Lapras. Pidgeot uses Aerial Ace. I have Lapras use Ice Beam, which knocks out the Pidgeot. For his second Pokemon, Green sends out Rhydon. I go ahead and have Lapras hit Ice Beam again, which knocks out the Rhydon in one hit. His next Pokemon is Executor, which is a bad call because it takes a ton of damage from my Ice Beam and misses the Sleep Powder on Lapras. Green decides to use a full restore on the next turn, so I just have Lapras hit another Ice Beam, taking it back down to low. But with me not using any Ethers this entire run, I was out of PP for Ice Beam. So instead I had Lapras opt for Surfed, which wasn't very effective but did enough damage to knock out the Executor. The next Pokemon Green sent out was Alakazam. So instead of trying to tank Alakazam, I decided to send out Trent since I know its attacks will not be very effective. And just like I predict, it uses Psychic, which does a good amount of damage to Trent but not enough for me to worry. So I instead try to hit Thief, trying to steal its item if it does have one. It does not. And after a quick recover, I decide I'm going to spend the next couple of turns hitting Calm Mind to raise Trent's special attack and special defense. So after 3 turns of Calm Mind and a quick max potion to fully heal up Trent, I go ahead and hit Thief, and a +3 special attack was just enough to knock out Alakazam in one hit. Green's next Pokemon is Arcanine, who goes ahead and uses Extreme Speed on Trent, while I have Trent use a Psychic, and Arcanine also gets knocked out in one hit. Green finally sends out his ace Pokemon, Blastoise. I go ahead and heal Trent to max, and Blastoise lowers its head, raising its defense. But unfortunately, that is not going to help, because using my last PP of Psychic, I hit it for max HP and knock it out in one hit. With that, I've defeated the champion and become the new champion. After one final talk with Oak and Green about what it means to be a Pokemon master, Oak leads me to the final room, the Hall of Fame. Oak congratulates me on becoming the new champion of the Hoenn region, and myself and my Pokemon are all entered into the Hall of Fame. When it comes to my feelings on this entire run and this playthrough as a whole, it feels unreal. I had so many thoughts going into this, but none of them can even come close to how I feel about it at this moment. I am beyond words with the effort that I put into it and the amount of patience that I've never had for anything else. And if you've watched it all the way through, I appreciate you even more. So without much else to say, please don't forget to like and subscribe and maybe hype the video if you found it really entertaining. And as always, I'll catch you guys in the next one.